Hello everyone, and welcome to an analysis of dance, where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard dance charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. It feels weird that for the first time in a good bit, Hot Dance has really been the only story of the week that's actually worth talking about, and in this case, it's not exactly for the reasons you'd expect. I mean, yes, it did get the most debuts out of the dance-oriented charts this week. A lot did happen, but thankfully not near the top. As it turns out, because Billboard actually listened to the song and knew that it wasn't electronic at all, Holy Water by Marshmello and Jelly Roll got absolutely denied from charting here. And thank God too, because I would have given that song an absolutely big thrashing. It's a blatant sellout and desperation at its finest, and considering that radio is on board, yeah, it's actually going to stick around, much to my goddamn horror. And hell, that means that the lead at number 1 is considerable for No Broke Boys by Disco Lines and Tinashe, which is surging on streaming at the moment. And while radio is still growing at a pretty decent rate, it is going up really considerably on pop Airplay. Seriously, the spins for this are getting really damn big. This has every reason to be an actual hit on the Hot 100, and while I'm a little bit disappointed that Tinashe didn't get it with another song, I'm not about to complain about this either. I still like the track. And if it especially denies Miles on It by Marshmello and Kane Brown from going anywhere at number 2, I will absolutely take it. Every single metric has been losing on this track for a while now, and given that all the attention on radio is now directed towards Holy Water, this looks like it might be on its way out pretty fast soon. Again, I'm not going to complain. If it manages to fall victim to the 78-week rule, where it's outside the top 3, I think we'd all win here. Shame the stuff beneath it isn't really having any chance of actually overtaking it anytime soon, like The Days Notion Remix by Crystal at number 3, and this one was just baffling in a specific format that we'll get to later on, but it's proof that her label has absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing. Seriously, this should have been a summer hit months ago. What is it doing here? But what's more interesting is Victory Lap by Fred Again, Skepta and Plugboy Max rebounding to number 4, entirely because of streaming, which I think is important to note because, again, it knocked down Blessings by Calvin Harris featuring Clementine Douglas down to number 5, which I think is interesting to note because radio is on board with it. It's growing considerably on pop Airplay at the moment, and streaming's not bad. I guess the collapse on sales didn't really do much to help it here, but still, this must be a very close race for those two spots. Again, they're both great songs, I'm not going to argue either way. But what's more interesting, and unfortunately not as surprising as I initially thought, was the gain for Slow Motion by Marshmello and the Jonas Brothers up big to number 6, because God forbid the Jonas Brothers included this track on their newest album, which impacted the charts this week. And while I could add any sort of question marks around why the hell people would still care about a Jonas Brother album in 2025, the reality is they have a silent majority sort of audience that will give them any sort of attention regardless of the quality of the music, and even if this song apparently does not remotely fit in the context of the album at all, it was a big single. I'm not all that surprised it's sticking around. I don't expect it will last though. But for now, it knocked down the next 3 songs, which are still not doing all that bad. Unfortunate in the next case, because Paso Bem Solto by Atlas should have been gone months ago. It's losing on streams considerably worldwide, and it's already on its way out on the Global 200. Why the hell is it still up this high? I don't have any reason for it to be here. Hell, why the hell is Dear Delicia by Nakama and MC Staff actually sticking around at number 8? I get that's a new Brazilian funk song, but again, the streaming has completely stalled out worldwide, and given that the scene is starting to lose legs with a few minor exceptions, I think it's really revealing in a way, and honestly, I hope to God that this goes away in record time. It's not good. Especially when beneath both of them we have Make Me Feel by Oscar Medk at number 9, a considerably better and actually fully developed song that has no problematic elements to it, and is actually still gaining on streaming. So yeah, I hope that this overtakes considerably in the next couple of weeks. It's the best out of these 3. I'm not about to complain about it sticking around. And also on that note, we had a surprising but promising entry into the top 10 that I didn't think anyone expected would actually make it in the United States. Yep, it's Dior by MK featuring Crystal actually hitting the top 10 at number 10. Yes, against all odds, MK actually managed to get a second top 10 hits. The first as a solo producer too, which is really incredible to note. And from the way the streaming and sales are going, I mean, it's gonna absolutely stick around too. It obviously doesn't have any radio support behind it at all, but given how big it is in the United Kingdom, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually took a risk with this one. I would not mind it either. But man, if you wanted the real busy story here, it came outside the top 10, and holy shit, nearly every notable dropout this week was a song that honestly was not remotely good at all. I mean, the only exception is maybe Beautiful People by David Guetta and Sia. What can I say? It regrew on me again. It's actually not a bad track, but if it's gonna take out some absolute garbage like I Love You So Jumpstyle by Husserks, Lost Voltage by Say False YB Was Good and RS yet again, The Less I Know The Better by Mal P, and thankfully Heavy Love by Odotari, getting rid of him from the charts yet again. I will absolutely take it. A lot of these are awful. Sadly though, the Falls were a lot better in quality, although I'm not going to be too upset about a lot of these because some of these have made the year-end list, and the other one was Well Wait So Long by Swedish House Mafia down to 22. It was only up that high because of a remix boost, and even if it is holding surprisingly steady for a modern Swedish House Mafia track, it's not really surprising that it's falling this hard. I'm not exactly expecting this will stick around either. But in the former case, well, we had Assumptions by Sam Galatri down to 23, which will easily make the year-end list, thank God, and more notably In My Arms by Elenium and Halo falling all the way down to 24, which doesn't surprise me considering that Refuge also left the charts entirely this week, much to my disappointment. I wish that that track stuck around, but given that In My Arms has already made the year-end list against all odds, I'm not about to complain about it being on its way out. It had a really good run, and thanks to the modestly strong debut positions in the middle of this new chart, we didn't really see any jumps at all, just a comeback for Say By Name remix by Morgan Citru featuring Florence and the Machine at the very bottom at 25. I mean, it's a good remix, I still like it more than most people, but seriously, it's hit 20 weeks now. If it leaves next week, I'm not about to complain about it. It's a good song, but it's already had its time at this point. But man, the debuts are all over the place here, unfortunately starting with number 19, Desire by Ian Asher and Olly Alexander. Okay, I'll be honest here, there are some debuts that just do not give me a lot to say. They're pretty straightforward in terms of style and execution and can really be summed up by the artist and the name of the song itself, and in this case it's pretty obvious what this is. And given that Olly Alexander, the former frontman of Years and Years, decided to not only rebrand the group and kick out every member to try and make a solo run, it also cultivated in an embarrassing Eurovision performance, and Polari being the sort of trash fire album that pretty much just destroyed anything that he had going with this alias. So could you really blame me for wanting to avoid talking about this? Now Ian Asher, okay, this one's actually a little bit more interesting because some of you would recognize that name from the remix of Makema by Jane, which was a decently popular remix a few years ago, and while it did do decently well, it wasn't exactly the sort of thing that really stuck around for me. It felt like a very TikTokified remix of a really interesting original track and did not hit nearly as well for me. And this, yeah, it's a speedy bass house remix of the Years and Years track Desire that was released over 10 years ago. And at this point, it feels really predictable, and yeah, I don't like this at all. Olly Alexander's vocals are chipmunked up to an uncomfortable register that I really did not like at all, especially when you have this instrumental that feels really gentrified and basic, with the lacking of atmosphere that really hurts a lot of the filler stuff from this scene. And as someone who does like this sound quite a bit, I mean, some of my favorite tracks that are on the year-end list at this point are Why Wine and Adderall, Light Years, and the Days Notion remix. Yeah, stuff like this has me worried that the scene might be getting very overexposed. Again, for someone like Ian Asher, this feels very cynical at best, really just cashing in on a trend, especially with a track that's gotten a lot of revivals over the years, and with this, yeah, not good. Skip it. Number 18, I'm Not Alone 2025 Remixes by Calvin Harris.
Does this mean that I'm not alone? Could this mean that I'm coming home? No.
Okay, so this is a bit of an interesting case. I thought that the remix that would get credited here specifically would be the MPH remix, considering that it's got by far the most streams out of the 3 remixes that we're talking about here, and given that it's a remix of I'm Not Alone by Calvin Harris that's actually being pushed on streaming more considerably than the other 2, I thought that would be the case, but no, they decided to include all 3 remixes together here, just like what they did back in 2019 with both the rework of the original track, which was excellent, and the Camel Fat remix, which also felt really underrated, but also had a pretty solid similar run to this. And given how much potential MPH has shown on that collaboration with Chris Lake from his last album that was absolute fire, and my general curiosity on how both J-Mo and Oliver Heldens would take over remixes of this track, I was at least interested to hear all these versions. And okay, let's just talk about these separately. Firstly, the big one, MPH's remix, And yeah, this is goddamn excellent. It speeds the track up to a faster house sound with some phenomenal percussion mixing on the verses that sounds really great, before going into these drops that have the sort of low-key groove that I really enjoyed. And even if I do wish the original vocals from Calvin Harris were integrated a little bit more seamlessly across the track, especially on the verses where they feel like they just come and go without any sort of transition, which I really wish was something that they did on this remix. I still really love how smooth this remix flows. There's an added element of chillness to this mix that actually really fits with the original track's vocal style, and given that the production is absolutely fantastic here and shows that this sound has really been really overdue for a modernization, yeah, this is how you do a remix of this track well. This might be on par with the rework for me, and even if I don't think it's as good as the original track, I would say it's one of the best versions of this track that I've heard. Now, as for the other two smaller remixes, well, okay, I actually really like the Oliver Heldens and Center Court remix. It turns the track into a straight trance track with these really bombastic synths that fit well with the original mix, and increases the key to make it actually sound more uplifting and upbeat compared to a lot of other versions of this track that I've heard. It sounds like the sort of thing that you could put easily as a dance floor ready remix banger, and considering Oliver Heldens' shine in terms of mixing abilities, it wasn't surprising that this turned out as great as it did. Now, as for Jarmo's remix, okay, sadly wasn't as huge on this one. Again, it goes for straight speedy bass house remix styles here and doesn't exactly do anything all that surprising or unique with the original mix. Really focuses more on heavier bass wubs with a lot more focus on the bass in general, and while it does work with the atmosphere of the original track, it feels like something that just kind of misses the mark in terms of that sort of atmosphere that the original was going for. Honestly, the bass wubs in general just feel really out of place here, and it feels more cynical than it has any reason to. I get why it's probably the least popular out of the remixes at the moment, but still, if that's the weakest of the remixes and still is generally fine, yeah, I was impressed by this remix package quite a bit. The original classic track from 2009 was given the respect it deserves, and both MPH and Center Court and Oliver Helden should be really impressed with how they went here. So yeah, very high quality stuff, worth checking out, and let's hope that this leads to more success for MPH moving forward. He absolutely deserves it. Number 15, Doors Light Funk by DJ VTT77 and DJ Vise. Okay, seriously, are we at the point now where we're letting funk remixes of established game themes charts, let alone one from a side game of fucking Roblox? Really? I mean, in this case, I can at least say that it's more memorable than your average funk track. I can actually remember a lot of the elements here, like those guitars against the awfully mixed kicks that sound like they're absolutely breaking the mix. Where it's going for more of that lo-fi aesthetic that Lovely Bastards made popular, and while I don't think it sounds remotely good, and you can barely hear the groove here at all against the really forced vocal samples and the underdeveloped song length, I can at least say in this case that it did use the original guitar melody from the original theme pretty decently. I don't think it sounds that bad in this mix, and even if it's covered up by the atrocious mixing that you'd expect out of funk, I can at least say I will remember this one. Not remotely good, but I can at least remember it. It's not the worst from the scene I've heard. I guess I'll take that. Small blessings. Number 13, No Cap by Disclosure and Anderson .Paak.
Girl, move your waist, wanna take off your lace, no cap.
Okay, thank God we're going back to something that's at least a little bit more understandable and manageable compared to those last two, and in this case it's Disclosure returning with a collaboration that does not remotely surprise me at all. Anderson .Paak's been on an absolute hot streak of collaborations with EDM producers recently, and given how well Places to Be performed as a genuinely excellent song, it doesn't remotely surprise me that Anderson .Paak teamed up with Disclosure, a name who have dabbled in a lot of Afro house leaning sounds that could really fit well for Anderson .Paak's voice, and given how much personality they put into their mixes, yeah, this was not surprising at all, and thank God that the song is expectedly great. Paak has the sort of laid-back charisma that really does work well on this African-inspired instrumental, where there's this added texture and smoothness to his flow that really does make him stand out compared to a lot of other guests that Disclosure have had recently, and when you have those distinctly African-sounding congas building off the much heavier groove that surprisingly also sounds really relaxed and really chill, honestly, this has the sort of potential to work in both a deep house-inspired club as well as something to just chill out and relaxed to, which is a really hard feat to manage, and Disclosure have just absolutely nailed it here. And given the smoothness that this has in terms of the dance floor hookup connection and the many ridiculous lines that Anderson .Paak has across this entire track, yeah, I get why this did so well on streaming. Even if some of the ridiculous lyrics like busting that 3T bubble pack, sweet tea, ass, no bass like Thundercat are just absolutely ridiculous. But to give him credit, Anderson .Paak is one of the few names that can actually sell these sort of ridiculous lyrics well alongside BB No Money. I can at least appreciate him having some personality and some humor to this mix for once. So yeah, this is the sort of goofy and really fun track that I really wish was more of a thing in 2025. Honestly, if more tracks like this charted, yeah, the charts would have turned out a lot better than what they are currently. And even if I don't expect this will stick around, considering that a lot of the singles after She's Gone Dance On have just not had any staying power at all, much to my detriment, honestly, I would not mind if this actually did stick around. It's a great track, really worth hearing. Number 12, Tesla by Mal P. Okay, at this point, Mal P has been so thoroughly inconsistent in quality that I had absolutely no idea what to expect here. Especially with this being more of a sample-heavy tech house cut with the sort of artwork that promised something more promising, and unfortunately, it's just more of the goddamn same. Same focus on bass with some admittedly nice synth flourishes that allow the bass line to develop more across the track to actually complement the existing melodies here, to the point where they go more towards chiptune leading synths in some areas, which was a big surprise for me. Same uses of hype non-melodic vocal samples to try and translate coolness rather than give it organically. Again, it does not work in a mix like this. And the same style of drops that feel really indistinct and forgettable coming from this scene. I mean, I'll at least give this credit where I don't think there's any one element that really genuinely annoys me here, but that's also its biggest problem because this is ridiculously forgettable, and considering that this is now Mal P's highest charting track to date, and again, that artwork promised something a lot more interesting than what we got, yeah, I was a little bit more disappointed in this than I should be. It's not exactly that bad, but I don't really see myself returning to it either. Just gonna say that now. But man, I at least take some inconsistent debuts over goddamn none, because Dance Pop once again proved that it's a complete fucking dead zone, with the sort of rollout that's been utterly fumbled, as Billboard has absolutely no idea how to manage this chart properly, and seriously, this is getting ridiculous. Either wreck on this chart, or at least give it more interesting stuff to talk about, because my god, this has been dead for months now, and it's really revealing that once we get past Huntrix at number 1 with How It's Done, the big story is that Apple by Charlie XCX got replaced by fucking Alter Ego by Doechii and JT at 14. A track that's been gone from this chart for several months now and has absolutely no reason to be here, considering that Doechii's hype has really died down at the moment, and considering that it's absolute crap, yeah, I'm not happy about this at all. Let's move on before I get really annoyed. But okay, moving on from that fucking embarrassment, well okay, dance streaming wasn't exactly interesting here, but given that it's a smaller metric chart that focuses on one format that's been embracing a lot more newer tracks recently, I'm gonna let it slide a little bit more in this case. How It's Done and Takedown by Huntrix are both at number 1 and number 2 comfortably, although No Broke Boys by Disco Lines International is making one hell of a run, being the biggest jump this week at number 3, really revealing there, and also Illegal by Pink Pantheress fell hard down to number 11, and it's pretty much done. Thank god again that they hit the Hot 100, and for some ungodly reason, It's Okay, I'm Okay by Tate McRae rebounded to 14. I don't remotely get it, let's just move on here. To Dance Sales, which was admittedly quite slow this week. Yes, it had 2 debuts, including one that's unique to this chart, as well as a return, but really the rotation felt really predictable and not all that interesting. I mean, why else is Your New Morning Alarm by Mark Rebele still at number 1? I mean, I know it's a glorified commercial for an alarm ringtone, but seriously, we're not in the 2010s anymore, why the hell is this still at number 1? And hell, outside of Blessings by Calvin Harris featuring Clementine Douglas losing down to 14, I mean seriously, one of our returns is Weightless by Marconi Union. I'm not exactly about to complain about this coming back at number 10, and it is a very good song to just relax and study to. I get why it's got sales attention, but seriously, this is feeling really ridiculous at this point. And hell, one of our debuts was also Tesla by Mal P at number 7, 7, which was incredibly predictable. Lovely here. Hell, on that note, our other debut was also predictable, and unfortunately not for the good reasons, being number 13, I Don't Trust a Soul by Disco Lines and Shipwreck.
I don't trust a soul, I don't even trust my bitch. Before I fall in love, I'd rather cut my wrist. I swear ace of spade, nigga, that's how much I sip. I don't trust a soul, I don't even trust my bitch.
Okay, seriously, Disco Lines, you've got a mainstream global smash hit right now that's getting a massive push on both radio and streaming. Why the hell are you releasing more material currently? And more importantly, considering that you know how to actually push the song to radio and streaming, why have you decided to go to this? I mean, I get not alienating his old fans, especially considering that he's got his big start going for more of this melodic tech house sound, but seriously, there's no reason why this needs to be released, let alone on John Summit's label Experts Only, where it's not guaranteed to have any success at all. I mean, it shouldn't be that surprising considering how well that label has succeeded on dance sales. He could add a little bit more finances to his absolutely huge network on the back of No Broke Boy's success, but then you get to the song itself and it's just not much of anything at all. Standard run-of-the-mill tech house with a riser on the drops that just gets obnoxious in record time, all against the vocal samples that are trying to be edgy and have an attitude, which when you add it alongside this weak-ass limp production that has absolutely no interesting atmosphere or content at all, yeah, they don't remotely fit, and they feel more laughable than anything. And when you combine that with the complete lack of melodies at all across the entire track, where none of them are actually all that interesting when they do appear, I mean, seriously, Shipwreck had more interesting content in a Chainsmokers collab from 2022 than this song with one of the biggest names in EDM at the moment. And if that's not a sign that everyone was just phoning this track in as it's not remotely good, I'm sorry, I don't know what is. This is mediocre as all hell. Quite frankly, it killed my excitement for any new Disco Lines material moving forward. Let's hope he rebounds because, yeah, this is not remotely interesting or special. Skip it. And finally, Dance Mix Show Airplay, where we only had one unique debut, although we had at least 3 other ones that are genuinely high quality. This was finally an actual good week for debuts on this chart after a couple of really bad weeks recently. But of course, the bad story here starts with Mad by Martin Garrix and Lowe actually hitting number 1, as if we needed this dated and really underperforming track on streaming actually getting there. Again, I could go into my rant from last week, but given that our time seems to be rebounding once this lost the big amount of spins that it did, that's at least a reassuring sign that this will be absolutely going out soon. Not going to complain either, it's terrible. And of course, what's likely to easily take number 1 next week comes in No Broke Boys by Disco Lines and Tinashe at number 2. Now this one is going to stick at number 1 for a while, considering that the mix show support is absolutely massive with this one, and Dance Airplay is not going to throw out a song this big on the mainstream Hot 100 that fast. It's going to stick around for a good bit. Certainly looks more like it's going to stick around longer than Won't Be Possible by Tiesto, Odd Mob and Good Boys at number 3, and that's saying something considering that that track is actually sticking around considerably, even though the spins are losing out on it. Again, it's proof that Tiesto's run of singles have had a lot more staying power than they really have any reason to. Not sure how I feel about that. Hell, he actually beat out A Better World by David Guetta and Cedric Gervais down to number 4. Again, not really all that surprising considering that it didn't even hit number 1 on Mediabase, and given that our time is right there, the spins for this are going to absolutely nosedive and it's going to be out soon. That's what happens when you have a song with less notoriety on streaming actually being a big hit on Dance Airplay. Again, not going to stick around soon. Following that, we got Dior by MK featuring Crystal at number 5. Again, it's slowly rising on spins, and while I expect it will not exactly go anywhere in the next couple of weeks, it is going to make a run for the top 3, not going to complain. Hell, I could see it somehow losing out to Save My Love by Marshmello, Ellie Goulding and Avion at number 6, which again is gaining spins slowly, but is going up a little bit faster than Dior in terms of momentum there. Expect this to make a run for the top 5 next week. Again, not going to complain. I mean, thank God both of these are holding back Are You Down by Loud Luxury in number 7, because God forbid we can't get rid of this dated garbage. Why the hell is it still gaining? I mean, Let's Ride Away by Avicii featuring El King is not that much better at number 8 considering the shady tactics of its release and the general mediocrity of the song itself, but at least take it over this. It's at least a little bit better, if not by much. Thankfully though, we end on a much better note as we got the welcome arrival for Wait So Long by Swedish House Mafia at number 9. Again, just like their recent singles, it's going to stick around and do well, and given that it's a really good song, not going to complain there. And finally, Blessings by Calvin Harris featuring Clementine Douglas was an actual fall down to number 10 this week, but again, the momentum is so strong on this one where the spins are not falling that fast. Expect this to stick around for a while, especially with Pop Airplay giving it some mix show support that's been long overdue. And on that note, our falls and fall-offs, honestly not really a whole lot that could really be talked about in a bad light here. I mean, all of our notable fall-offs were songs that fell last week, being Don't Wake Me Up by James Hype, Edge of the World by Medusa, Genesee and Inalea featuring Nula, and Something New by GT Office, Matthew Topper and PT. Again, these are all going to make the year-end list. I'm not about to complain, they're all really good songs. And hell, I can't be disappointed with the falls that much either. I mean, outside of Blessings in the top 10, we had the expected falls for In My Arms by Millennium Inhaler down to 18, a really bad week for that song, and Leave the Lights On by Please and Thank You and EXO and down to 22 after a remarkably solid run where both are going to make the year-end list. And when it's taking down Cherry by Jules Liesel to 32, a song that I still mostly like but has had a wildly inconsistent run, and especially Anxiety by Doechii at 33 and The Party by Alyssa Ragu down early to 37, which are both absolutely terrible. I'm not about to complain there. It's an overall net win for me. But what certainly isn't comes in our jumps this week, where outside of the long overdue jump for Dream a Little Dream by Armin van Buuren and Sam Gray to 24, took it long enough. I do not like any of these other jumps whatsoever. I mean, the best of those is probably Seconds to Sunrise by Lena Leon being generally forgettable at 27, but if it's going to take up the extremely mediocre No One Else by Two Friends featuring Corbin Besson at 20, and especially the absolute garbage fire that is Move a Little Closer by Dubs and Abby Flynn at 14, I mean seriously, we're giving Dubs a hit in 2025, and especially considering that Loud Luxury are also doing well here, we've got two washed up Canadian EDM duos at once, as if we needed one. My god, can we move on please? But thankfully on a much better note, 3 of the 4 debuts this week are songs that I've already covered in some form before, and given the overall quality of them, yeah, they absolutely saved this week. And when you get both Illegal by Pink Pantheress at 30 and Falling by Chris Lake and Bonobo featuring Alexis Roberts actually making it here at 35, yeah, that's really revealing. Both are genuinely great songs and are having this sort of upwards momentum, both quality and actually growing on me. I wouldn't mind if they both stuck around. They both are worth it, especially in the latter case where Bonobo gets his first shining song on this format. Long overdue. But here's the problem. The last of these debuts is The Days by Crystal at 40. This week. If that's not a sign that whoever is managing the rollout for Crystal needs to be fired into the sun for utterly fumbling an easy single to get pushed to radio. I mean seriously, this should have been pushed at least a few months ago considering summer just came and went. If that's not a worrying sign that this is going to have absolutely no staying power considering the really bad timing and how far away from its peak it actually got pushed, yeah, I don't know what is. It might get a push once Dior stalls out, but the fact that Dior was a charting song before this is goddamn ridiculous. Just gonna say that now. But that just leaves one debut that's at least a little bit more interesting and surprised me a bit, being number 38, Blackberries by Fisher and bbyclose. Surprised that of all the singles from Fisher recently, this is the one that charted on Dance Airplay. I mean, I think after Somebody 2024, we can all agree that Fisher's momentum just completely died off. I mean, Ocean with Arco had a decent run and actually charted on the Hot Dance charts briefly, but every other single has either underperformed or been relegated to just being big in Australia, which I'm at least a little bit conflicted about in some regards, because while Somebody 2024 is an atrocity that you can tell Fisher was really in charge of, it was also also the sort of thing where the quality has just been wildly inconsistent, with some really interesting tracks like Stay being balanced out against some mediocre tracks as well. It's not exactly the sort of thing that surprised me why he's not sticking around that much. But hey, this got the radio push. bbyclose has been absolutely killing it in EDM features recently, and actually I'm genuinely shocked to say that this might be Fisher's best release in the last couple of years. I mean, the one thing that needs to be commended here is Fisher's production, which honestly might be his most lively and upbeat since Atmosphere. The fantastic bass line against the much heavier house groove, that's probably amongst the liveliest that Fisher has felt in the last couple of years, especially when you have those little synth flourishes that bounce off the production really goddamn well. Honestly, this is the sort of mix that I've been missing from him. I'm really glad he went back here. Now, if I had any issues here, outside the fact that bbyclose does not feel as instantly memorable here as she does on other tracks, she's mixed a bit too quiet in the mix and her personality doesn't really shine through as much as it should. It would be the length of this, where for some ungodly reason this is only just over 2 minutes, which for a tech house cut like this, I mean, okay, it does get the job done well, it does go in and out without any sort of really big filler moments throughout. I can at least appreciate them trying to make it more suffice here, but really without any sort of final drop or bridge, you can seriously feel how undercooked this feels. It should have been a lot longer than it is. I mean, even with that, I like this a lot more than I expected, and I'd honestly say this is Fisher's best single in the last couple of years, but seriously, this could have been excellent, and it's merely just limited to being honestly great. I'm glad that he rebounded in quality here. Let's hope this leads to more developed tracks moving forward, and honestly, I wouldn't mind if this stuck around either. Just gonna say that now. So yeah, that's honestly a week where the best and worst came together really fast for me. For best, I mean, it's easily going to the I'm Not Alone 2025 remixes credited under Calvin Harris, with both MPH and Oliver Heldon and Center Court's remixes being enough to carry it here, even if the Jamo remix was a little bit disappointing. The overall quality was leaning more towards great and excellent, so I'm not exactly going to argue about it here. Honourable runner-up, yep, it's going to No Cap by Disclosure featuring Anderson .Paak, although I will say that Fisher was really goddamn close and that genuinely shocks me. And for worst, yep, it's going to Doors Light Funk by two nonsensically named producers that I refuse to talk about again. For being, well, a Brazilian funk song, it was going to get this place on Birthright at this point. Although I will say that Dishonourable runner-up is going to Desire by Ian Asher and Olly Alexander, and that was honestly a lot closer than I think it had any reason to be. And yes, Disco Lines and Shipwreck managed to just barely dodge it. Have fun there. It's not going to last and not be all that good regardless. Next week, well, given the absolutely stacked list of albums that just came out recently, I expect this to be a calm before the storm with maybe debuts from the Chainsmokers and that new Kate Renata album. Could be interesting at least, even if the quality is not exactly there, and we'll get to that next week. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.